Hey, what's up, everybody?
Word.
There we go.
Hello.
Sunday fun day. We are here with William Perry and Ryan Quellet.
Quellet.
Quellet? Okay.
Quellet,
Sorry, I
yeah.
didn't want to murder that. My dad's last name is hard to pronounce too, but I feel that. Oh, Danish and Technique. Welcome to the stream, guys. First one's in. That we are going to talk a little bit about some HD0 stuff, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
Up and comings stuff.
Yes.
But before we get deep into that, we'll let
some guys
get this
come
shared
in.
around. Share this around, guys, please, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dan's already on it. Looks like he's already.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in typing world right now.
Yep, I've already got it in. Let's see my page, and then my page on Optimized Drone.
Oh, what is happening right now?
Share it to.
All right. For some reason on my desktop, it's not working for. Yeah. I'll do it on my phone.
Right.
So
I'm gonna have to do.
we got Rob. Rob just received the 2 of the 3 drones that I've rebuilt one, and I built him a fresh Whoop, but I had a motor failure on the 3-inch, so I owe him a 3-inch. But yeah, so Ryan, tell us, you guys just started this HD0 project last year at some point, and it's taken off. I've seen a lot of really amazing pilots just dive right in and disappear from all the other options. And I really want to know mainly like what's different than the DJI, just straight out of the gate, because I think that would help sum up a few things between the analog add-on HD0 versus the DJI full kit sort of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so HD0 in a nutshell compared to DJI would be HD0 is smooth like analog, and it updates the goggle screen in the same exact way the analog does, where it does it in scan lines continuously. And DJI does frame-based updates and is not as smooth. It can stutter and get kind of jank. On the other hand, HD0 is going to get kind of pixelated and blocky when there's interference. So you're picking between very smooth video where it's always smooth like analog, or kind of stuttery like DJI or Avatar at this point now too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I've heard a lot of people talking about the blocky blackouts at the end of their DJI limit in terms of distance, and that scares me because I fly around my marina, I chase my buddy's jet ski a lot. I'm flying over water, and my analog for that is the slight analog breakup that I see. And that's where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to reach my limit. I'm starting to reach where I go. I think personally it would infuriate me to go, oh, blockiness and my limit. Like, there's like, because when I watched Bardwell's comparison, even with the new, what was it, the 50 megahertz or whatever update, it went from that little bit of blocky graininess to just gone. And I was like, okay. that wasn't much forewarning for
Mm-hmm.
turn back now, like, and that scares me a lot more than the little fuzz that analog would give you, or the fuzzy vibration that you get going behind a bando wall.
Mhm.
Like, so HD0 does intrigue me. As I said in the pre-chat, I don't have the goggles that can suit those. I have the Attitude V5, so there's no HDMI port. So I'm kind of SOL on that one.
Mhm.
But I very much want to know a lot more about this. I know we've got a lot of people that are going to be coming in from the T-Motor Freestyle group, I believe. And
Their FPV group as well.
oh, nice. Okay. So yeah, let's get some questions from the comments if there are any yet. Hold on, my volume's going down, not the comments. Okay. So I just gotta restart this print actually.
When we're talking about goggles, I'm still on my HD2 V2 Dominators. I love that.
HD2.
I love that 50-degree field of view, man.
Yeah.
It's super nice. And actually, I bought a set of HD2 V2s from my buddy when he got out of sports. So I've got 2 sets of HD2 V2s, and then I've got a set of HD. I think they're HD3
Mm-hmm.
Dominator V3.
Yeah. Does that HD2 have HDMI input? I think it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so does the Dominator V3s.
Yeah, big FOV is a love-hate thing. I remember when those came out, there was hate about not being able to see to the corners. So then Fat Shark came out with I think the HD3 that had a lot smaller FOV. Yeah.
And there was 42 or 45 after that.
I think it was 42. Yeah.
42 is the HDO V1s.
HDO V2 went up a little bit, I thought.
HDO V1 was actually 37.
You're correct. 37 and yeah, 42 was the HDO 2s, I believe, right?
Something HDO like that. 2 is 46.
46. Okay.
I got those all memorized.
Those in a while. It's good to be set straight. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah,
the 50-degree field of view. For some of my OSD stuff, I can't put it in that upper left-hand corner or the lower right. It's I get a little bit, but I just adjust where I put my OSD stuff, so it's not terrible.
Totally. Yep.
So, but yeah, do that and then run a 1.8 race lens.
A really wide lens, right?
Yeah. So, but I do enjoy the 1.8 lens, especially with all the turnarounds and lookbacks that they're doing in all these freaking races nowadays. I was running 2.1 before, and I can see things so much faster. And I've actually taught myself to look in the corners of the screens when I'm flying and turning directions and stuff like that. Keeping my eyes focused on the center of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is that a micro camera?
Get a little bit of that. What's that?
Is that a micro camera?
Well, let's see. I've got these are minis on my racers. I'm running the Run Cam Robin, and then this one is
What's up, Josh?
This one's a Caddx EOS.
Dude, I love the Caddx.
The EOS is arguably the one that it's the one that I like. I haven't had a bad one yet. So, but some of their other cameras I get good and bad results with. So,
yep.
We got Props Off in here. Who else?
What's up, Props Off? How you doing?
Rob E. Maddie's Drone World. What's up, Maddie?
Architect. What's up? So guys, I just Frank's red hotted this. I put this shit on everything.
Soft. There we go. Okay.
So it's we're gonna have some viewers pop in with some questions pretty soon. All right.
So yeah, Ryan, why don't you tell us what you've been doing for the past couple of years?
What do I do? So I am actually, I want to make very clear, I'm just a tester for HD0, but
Yeah.
I also provide a lot of advice to Carl, and Carl will say to anyone that he's being successful now because of all of the advice he's being given and listening to that advice and implementing it.
Yeah.
So what have I been doing? Let's see, when did I get into this system? Like, oh, how long has it been? A year and a half, basically. Got the Sharkbite Kit. Remember when it used to be called Sharkbite?
Oh yeah. That was
I
a
have
huge
that on my
craze.
HD02s or HD01s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was between getting Sharkbite or getting DJI at the time, and since I had Fat Shark goggles already, I was going to hold off. So got the Sharkbite kit, threw it on the first drone that I could find in my eyesight, which was a Tiny Hawk 2.
Ooh.
So I crammed HD into a 2S Tiny Hawk 2, and started flying it around. That was a really, really kludgy install, but
Right.
just
What's
wanted
up,
to get it
Chris?
flying.
Just Me Hop is in the house.
All right, we're
Yeah.
finally getting more people in here. That's perfect.
So we got a question from one of our team pilots actually. We got Robert Vitrafly Romero asking, what goes into testing a product like this? And then he, of course, is the king of Spang, so he said, can it Spang?
S-Bang, whatever.
Yes.
Hey, how about you define S-Bang for me? I've been wondering.
Yeah, please do that for me too.
Robert will.
Well, here, I could
Bring up one of Robert's videos and just show him who he is.
I'm on it.
Is that where you're just kind of like doing moves like this laterally and then flipping it around backwards, and
flowy
then
style that Farouk and Bubby and all them have been trying to do. But Robert in our mind is by far the king of it.
He's smooth.
Well,
too.
mainly we have a bias because he's our team pilot, but
this comment says, simply put, S-Bang is smooth violence.
Exactly. So
there we go. There it is.
Yeah, put yours big screen, Matt. This is his new trick that he's been. I think is this the coin drop or no?
This is what we call the quad ballet.
Yeah, this is Robert. He just dances with the sky. He's local to me, so he and I fly every now and again together.
Local-ish.
Yeah, about 40 minutes away.
That's pretty cool.
Nice, Maddie. That was great.
That was epic. I don't know, man. It still doesn't quite hit Danish's.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, Danish set it off with that one he did. So,
dude, I lost my mind. And William, you were bringing up to me yesterday about the TikTok. We have one. I just made a second one too. So that's right. I have one, the at optimized drone or whatever, and then I've got at team optimized drone. Right. And the team one is the new one, but the original one's at like 700 or 800. So it's getting up there, but there's a problem. It thinks ours is 16 years old, under 16 years old, because it's stuck at the stock birthday, and it wouldn't let me change it. So I had to
shit!
That was cool.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
You have to go into, and you have to
that was crazy. I want to watch that one again.
So, I did, and then I emailed TikTok, and
I can't believe you freaking whipped a Maddie through that tiny little ass gap.
They're horrible with responses. So.
Oh, I know. But yeah, that's why I made the team optimized drone one, just to start over so that everybody can hashtag into it and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Vitrafly if you haven't seen him before, Ryan.
Yeah, it looks great. I'll have to watch some more of that.
Oh, he's got video after video of this style. He's brilliant.
That is Josh Ryan saying hello from Facebook there.
Yep, and we also had Just Me Hop in there to give a shout out to him. He's one of our team pilots as well.
So Victor Fly wants to know if it can process fast enough to be doing this kind of dancing.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, how about I get into the answering that now?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
HD0 is definitely the right tool for this type of flying. And the reason is the latency is low and it's fixed, and it's not, it doesn't change on you. So if you flip over and you get to a null zone on your antenna, so like the null of the transmitting antenna is pointing at the null of your receiving antenna, you get some static maybe, but it won't just stutter.
Okay.
Which is what happens with normal digital systems. So it's going to act identical to analog, and that's what you want for that type of flying, where you want a really tight feedback loop between what you're doing with the quad and your inputs into it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the big reasons that I believe it was Heads Up that was test flying HD0, correct? Yeah, he was talking about it, and he like, as a racer, I can definitely understand that he would see a noticeable latency difference. Like, and that's one of the big things that he noticed, and I felt kind of the same way. It's not, like, granted, it's not video related, it's more control link related, but I made the switch from Crossfire to ELRS recently, and I'm not a racer, I'm just a cinematic freestyle type. I'm a highly mediocre pilot at best. But I even noticed that slight latency difference in just the control link. So the video link being that much cleaner and faster can only improve your style of flying, no matter whether it's racing, freestyle, S-bang, whatever. Like,
well, I think it's not just the speed of the video or the control link; it's the consistency.
yes.
So if you talk to the Betaflight devs, they'll tell you that having 500 hertz ELRS, but having a bunch of inconsistent packets is bad. You're better off going to 250 hertz.
Nice. What's up, Skittles? Apparently, all four of us are iGow/RaceGow sponsors this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I missed out on that this year. I have to go next year, trying to get the store back up and running.
Yeah. Well, we got you covered. William, you're always a part of the team OD. Right, so we'll cover your sponsorship with Skittles.
Well, thanks, I appreciate it.
But yeah, this is let's see. Sorry, I'm just catching up on comments, guys. Consistency is key, and that's a huge reason why I stopped using. Oh man, what was it? I feel like it was one of the Rush VTXs, because every time I try, no, it was the Panda RC ones. Every single time I used them, it felt like I was a second and a half behind where my drone was. Like, I don't know what it was, but the latency was so
the video transmitter.
Are you sure that's the Panda RC one? Because there was one that was God, it was like a Hawkeye or something. Cyclops. There you go.
Cyclops.
Because I had a Cyclops that I seriously couldn't fly. You were 2 to 3 seconds behind in the video, and I felt I was flying one of those little Wi-Fi drones that you hook up to your cell phone.
Yeah,
it was that bad.
it was the DVR Cyclops, right?
Yeah. I've got one of those. I have a build that still flies that has one of those in it that I haven't
actually
like. It's a little deuce, as a matter of fact.
You want to know the best use for that freaking camera? Sorry to get off track, but best use for that camera that I've found so far, right here.
Yeah.
Now you've got clean DVR footage for all that little breakup that this Emax gets when it's rumbling down the street at supersonic 1S speeds. And you get clean video. Man, I put a vibration dampener on it, and man, so happy. You don't need the latency with that. But yeah, so let's see. Do we have any other questions in the audience?
I've got some questions that people have been asking me lately, and I said let's wait until Ryan gets on the show. So one of them was, who makes the changes to the custom hardware, and what is the licensing like? Do you have any info on that?
Okay. So the custom hardware is the ASIC.
Okay, that's what we wanted to know too.
Well, I mean, what are we? So I can break down the different parts of the video transmitter. I'm seeing if I have one on me. I don't, but so there's an ASIC chip that does the video encoding, and then also the video decoding. That chip is like a $1 million chip, and it basically can't change. So that's the chip that you have on the VTX and you have on the goggle receiver. And then you have like some RF modulation stuff that can change, and you have a power amplifier, and that can change. So the RF modulation is going to, I think, determine what frequencies you're operating on, and like the channel width and stuff. And then the power amplifier is going to determine the power output of the VTX. So right now we have kind of two classes of VTXs for HD0. There's the 25/200 milliwatt VTXs, and then there's the 1 watt VTXs. And those ones have a different power amplifier chip.
So that's the HD0 race and the HD0, I think, what's the other one? HV or something like that?
So you can kind of just separate into two categories. There's the big honking 1 watt one that has a red aluminum heatsink, and then there's everything else that is max 200 milliwatt.
Okay. So the 20x20 HD0 race is 25/200.
Correct. And also the tiny whoop one is 25/200.
Okay.
Yep. And then as for who can make changes, so the hardware designs for the VTXs are, let's say, quasi open source at this point. Basically, if someone wants to make a VTX, they contact Carl, and Carl sets them up with everything they need, like reference design, schematics, everything. And then that company can change out components, relay out the board, all that stuff, and make a new board.
What's up, 2 to FPV? Hey, Matt, Vitrafly says, I posted a video today on my channel, specifically in section, where the DJI could not keep up with his movements. If you ever catch a moment to review it, I want to know what you would think the video would keep up. Or if you think the video would keep up. So, Matt, do you see a video from...
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now.
So he's talking about delay then.
I think so. Well, he moved. Yeah, he says the latency was horrid.
Okay.
All right.
He says at minute 35.
Yep. I've got it at a minute 22 right now, so I'm just going to get my screen swap.
All right.
So this was DJI, and you said the latency was bad?
Yeah, so minute 30, minute 31, 32.
Ooh.
It's got to be around there.
Oh, there's the fuzz.
Is this goggle DVR?
I don't know. We'd have to ask him.
Oh. I guess he missed a movement because which is why he crashed. Because he was... If you look right by where the movement, right before he crashed, looks like he tweaked out a little bit, meaning his video probably lagged into his goggles a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with DJI, every time I've flown it, it's like, wow, this is awesome. And then I start to rip it a little bit, kind of not
Yeah.
as good as this, but a little bit like this. And then I start to notice the stutters, and it drives me nuts. And you notice it more if you fly more analog and you fly more HD0. But if you fly a
Yeah.
lot of DJI, then you get like quote unquote used to the stutters of DJI. But what I think you really do is you kind of try not to make the system stutter, like you fly differently. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and another thing would be like maybe the antenna was bad, maybe something like that. Well, you're not going to immediately notice that there's a bad antenna on a DJI type system. It's just going to kind of increase the delays and the stutters, but still give you a good looking video. Where with an analog or an HD0, if you have a bad antenna, you're going to know
Yeah.
right away.
I found
Vitrafly
it.
says, no, this is HD footage, but the latency had me feel like it was I was in a good position, but then I found myself in the ground.
Sure.
So
And yeah, if you're running the 60 FPS high quality mode with DJI, that one like pretty much everybody just says yeah, that you can the latency is the problem. But then if you go to the 120 FPS cameras, the latency becomes less of a problem for most people, but it's still there.
he said his antenna was cracked, so he probably has to replace that. Small crack, but I'm sure there's more damage.
Yeah. So like if you had the same type of damage with an HD0 quad, like right away you'd start to see random breakup and crap, like right as you
Yeah.
take off, right? Or maybe even before you take off, and you know there's a problem. But the latency would never change. So
Yeah.
it's just like analog in that respect. So if you're like a super casual, slow flyer, you just want like the best image at all times, but you're willing to sacrifice some of the consistency of the link, then DJI is great. But I don't like that kind of flying myself.
Yeah.
I found that I had to fly slower when I was doing 3D tricks with DJI because it made the frame kind of seem like it jumped. I guess that's the delay thing too for the latency in it. And
Yeah.
once I started to slow down my moves, then I found that it was kind of catching up, kind of like what Vitrafly's talking about, but it was really weird. And I don't know, I just changed my flight style, like you were saying, and I started to smooth it out. And I said, well, maybe I'm just rough. I don't know, because it's hard to see it when you're doing it versus when you go watch it later.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Billy Barrett?
Billy, what's going on?
Billy's here on Facebook, so just popped in. I was glad to hear HD0 Freestyle has a built-in switch. Does the 1S board have it too?
I think he was talking about a pit switch.
Yeah.
So it's all software controlled. All of the HD0 VTXs can turn off the power amplifier, it's called, with software through like a Betaflight command.
That's nice too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like the off time is maybe a quarter of a second, and the on time is about a quarter of a second.
Okay. We got, let's see. So I had a question more about sizing. I know you said you managed to shove one in a Tiny Hawk too. What's the small, like, do you guys do mainly 20 by 20 or?
Let me get it.
Yeah.
I did have one here.
Because I know 16 by 16 was super popular for a while.
So this is a 65 millimeter whoop.
Oh, hold on, let me get to it. Hold on. There we go.
Epic. All right. Is that the new Mobeetle?
This is the Mobula 6 HD0. So you can buy these today, bind and fly.
Nice.
So on the top is the VTX, and on the bottom is the standard Whoop AIO.
Okay.
So 65 millimeters.
So
That's currently the smallest that I've seen.
The form factor is pretty small in terms of width of it then, because I know with the DJI, they're yay thick. Like,
Yeah,
They're a good half-inch to inch thick.
It's a single board
Awesome.
loop form factor. You can see it there on the top.
That, yes.
So it fits within the ducts. I have another one that I built myself, and I actually sunk the VTX in between the hoops.
Nice.
Instead of on top.
I do a lot of micro builds, so anything Whoop AIO sized or 20 by 20 tends to be my go-to.
Yep. So the weight on this, if you're curious, it's 4.5 grams for the VTX, and then the camera is like 1.7 grams.
Oh wow!
The total weight to add this is like 7.5 grams for everything. That's the antenna, VTX, camera, and the cable that goes between the VTX and the camera.
That's wicked. That's a lot less weight. Isn't the Polar like what 19.5 grams or something?
I think the Vista weighs 26 grams. And then the camera is probably...
Product weight, 30 grams. I've got the DJI Polar Vista right here.
Yeah.
It says right here on the back of the box, product weight, 30 grams.
Mm-hmm.
God damn.
Yeah, it's in a completely different category for weight.
Yeah.
And it also operates down to 2.8 volts, so you can run 1S.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Dude,
So
see, that's a huge
I have a question. So do you think that they'll ever be able to make a 16 by 16 VTX?
I don't think so.
I think that 16 by 16 is phasing out, to be honest, Matt.
Well, one of the reasons is because the circuits, the way they run, if you look at the boards, the circuit there, it's very difficult to place everything where it needs to go, especially for cooling, to put it in that spot. So, I mean, it's really difficult. It's easier to make it larger than smaller.
Yeah. And
yeah, obviously, but I've got a couple frames that I fly that are I'm still on 16 by 16.
Yeah. And as do I. Like, I've got Matt knows that, like, I used to live off of 16 by 16s because everybody hated them and would send them to me to fix. Mm-hmm. So, and then they'd just be like, just keep it. I don't want 16 by 16 anymore. So I would end up just building a bunch of micros with 16 by 16s, but it became really hard to find VTXs that were sized 16 by 16 that were more than like 25 milliwatts, you know? There were a couple that were like 200, and then, but if you were going for like a TBS Nano, then that was usually limited to 25 and 200, depending on which one you got. So,
well, you got the Pro 32 Nanos that can do 400 now.
Yeah, now, but not when we were playing with 16 by 16s and burning out every iFlight F4 stack that we could find.
Yeah, I think what you'll find with things that are this size, those analog VTXs that are like this small, I think they're overstating the power output.
Oh yeah, 100%.
On the bigger ones, I don't think they are, but on the small ones, I think they are overstating it. If you take this 200 milliwatt VTX and test it compared to a 400 milliwatt like Tiny Whoops VTX, I think that this will do better.
Hey Dan, I just picked up a Flywoo Goku 16 by 16. I think it's rated for 20. I think I picked up the 30 watt or 35 amp.
The 16 by 16?
Yes.
There's a 35 amp 16 by 16 Goku.
Hold on.
What's up, New Sins? One of our patrons. How you doing, buddy?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this is where the actual party is, man. Don't go over to
New Sins, hey.
Nuisance was living up near where I am right now for a while, and I was down in Florida, and I moved up here, and Nuisance recently moved down to Florida. So I was like, man, like we could have just, you know. But yeah, what's up, Thrillbilly?
There you go, Dan.
Yeah, man. Let me see.
One of the things I'm curious about is why did Walksnail decide to go 25.5 on their spacing? I don't know why they would have done that. That's one of the oddest sizes to go with instead of like a 20 by 20 or.
So that's legit a 35 amp 16 by 16. No way.
I think
I was gonna pick up the 20 amp, but I don't have a 16 by 16 VTX, and this stack for $20 more came with the VTX. So we'll see how it does.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Like
my
I said, I've been decent
opinion
with the Flywoo stuff so far. So
my opinion on the board sizes, I think it's better to do a 2-high stack rather than a 3-high stack. And if you have to go to a wider board to do a 2-high stack rather than a 3-high, then it's a better choice.
Yeah, because there's too high. So
is it due to heat transfer and cooling?
Basically what I would say, when you go to 3-high stacks, the risk of a front end collision, kind of like pushing the stack post back, goes and like really causing some damage, goes way up when you have a 3-high stack. When you have a 2-high stack, it's way more compact. Your stack is usually less tall than your camera.
Yes.
By a large margin. So there's just a lot more wiggle room. So I'm leaning myself towards building potentially more drones with like an AIO and then a VTX on top.
So like that's a 3-high stack.
Now, hold on.
I refuse to use standoff, so everything it's a through bolt all the way through for all 4 bolts.
So
on all my stacks, I can't. I really don't like doing the standoffs unless
hey Matt, make mine big, because I've got Mistress Helen in my hand. So Ryan, you're saying a 2-high stack versus a 3-high stack.
That's just the VTX, right? The 3-high stack versus 2-high, like DJI, I think is almost like a 3-high stack.
Yeah, well, DJI is a 2-board. DJI is a 2-board, but it's got pretty chunky heat spreaders on it.
I know they're way more than HD0 or even the new Walksnail.
Yeah.
VTX. I know that by fact.
So how you stacked up there, Dan?
Yeah, I've got 2 ESCs, one on top of the other, plus the FC. But I'm swapping out the VTX right now because my TBS Nano that I was using kind of blew out on me. So I'm putting a new VTX in it, but I was going to go with the 20 by 20 VTX for right on top of the stack there.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm thinking just get another Nano or something.
I would do a Whoop AIO that's kind of mounted on a 45-degree, turn.
Yeah.
And then put a VTX on top. Well, because that's what I'm leaning towards myself for new stuff.
Though, the only way to do this X8 config is to have 2 ESCs. So I would need to get
2 20 by 20 ESCs.
Yeah, 2 20 by 20 ESCs. Like I could easily get a VTX that's Whoop AIO, but it would stick out the sides a little bit, as well as would have to be mounted on like a TPU spreader.
Hey Dan.
Yo.
Mount the Whoop AIO VTX in between the sandwich.
Ooh, That is a good plan because we have 5mm spacing between.
And I do have
things.
Whoop FC mounts on the stacks or on the frame
Yeah.
already. So see if you can fit one in there.
Do external ESCs.
No, I've got a big baby, a Shendron's big baby up there frame that I was very tempted to. William knows my love-hate relationship with these old one-shot Little Bees.
Oh yeah.
And I was so tempted. I've got like 20 of them, and like there's just a ton just everywhere. But
yeah.
I was so tempted. I've got that frame. I was like, I just need 8 motors, and I'm gonna make a little stupid 20 amp individual ESC freaking X8.
That's funny.
But yeah, dude, like I don't know if I want to do individual ESCs, just mainly because of the real estate and the weight.
It just sounds like a pain in the butt to build.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah.
I was kidding. I got into the hobby at the beginning of 2018, and at that point, that's when all of the 4-in-1 ESC things were all the rage. And
yeah,
never really, got stuck with the individual ESCs.
I've got a few rigs with individuals, and that's fine. I've got one that's a massive 1250mm X8 that it isn't flying anymore. I need to repair it a little bit, but it's running external or individual ESCs for obvious reasons. And then I've got my Skull 5-inch. My main daily driver is on the 45 amp BL 32. I think they're the Medici or whatever the Heli Nation, yeah, whatever the Heli Nation company was called. But yeah, I love them. I love the ESCs, and I've got a couple others with individuals, but the 4-in-1 stacks definitely made it a lot easier. You can make me normal size now, Matt. I'm done.
I had another question for Ryan, actually. What antennas have you found or used for the older HD0 system versus the new goggle set?
Did you say antennas?
Antennas, yeah. What antennas are you using on the receiver?
Are you suggesting that I'm using different ones between the two?
Well, we were asking if you were using
I'm just
different
asking
antennas.
what antennas you're using.
Oh,
and doesn't DJI use RP SMA instead of SMA?
They do. Yeah. DJI uses RP SMA.
Yeah, that's one thing that really screwed with my mind. It was like, why?
I think it's like an FCC regulation. If you know what RP SMA is, it was designed to make it so that the antennas were not user serviceable.
Yes.
Which is funny because there's all these RP SMA antennas available.
Oh, I know, and there's also like it's literally just the isn't it just the reverse version of the SMA but with a little bit different layout? Like,
it's just a reverse sex.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And you can get adapters too to
exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
But yeah. So the question about what antennas do I use on the receiver and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm a pretty big fan of the True RC gear.
Nice.
Hugo Chamberlain, True RC. He's kind of the guy that makes all of the antennas behind the scenes for, I think, Lumineer and stuff like that. So like the Axie stuff is all, I think, designed by True RC.
I'm a huge fan.
Yes.
Yes.
So the X-Air patch antennas is what I run on the goggle, and then I run his stubby antennas. So I pretty much consider the Axie 2, the Lumineer Axie 2, and the True RC Singularity, I think it is. I think those are basically probably equivalent because I know they're made by the same guy.
Yeah.
Designed by the same guy.
The singularities, I've heard nothing but good things about.
Yeah. And for reception, what I recommend is to elevate the antenna above your head. Because when you fly behind yourself, your head is full of water and it absorbs RF like nobody's business. So if you just get the antenna elevated up a couple inches, it helps a ton.
I started using the 8-inch long or the 7-inch long iFlight ones on my goggles, just because I was getting so much interference, and I do a lot of random flying behind my house and flying behind wherever I'm sitting, because I'm one of those people that just, I don't think about it before I start flying, and I never end up facing the direction that I'm actually flying in. So
yeah. The thing I'd say about antennas is they're not necessarily going to give you the like way better penetration and stuff like that, but you will get a lot more consistent image. Less like random, like why did I get a hot flash there? Weirdly enough, on these whoops, flying indoors, I don't have any problems ever. Almost doesn't matter if I use a monopole antenna like on this thing, which is a terrible antenna,
or a linear,
I think it's just a monopole, which is a piece of wire with the end stripped. And then on the receiver, I'm just using stubby antennas, and no particular ones, just like whatever I had in the bag. So for some reason, the whoop stuff indoors, it doesn't matter as much.
We had a question earlier from Props Off, I believe, and it was, what is the all-up dry weight of your 65?
So the custom 65 I built has some heavier 25,000 kV motors from Tiny Whoop.
Okay. Are they the Dangers?
It's 0802 25,000 kV.
The Danger.
They're gold.
Danger onesies or whatever.
Those are the ones that I tested for Jesse. Remember the Renegade 65, the little bat out of hell?
Those are the ones that come with the disclaimer, right?
Yes.
So that whoop is 25 grams.
Oh, he beat me! He beat me!
So Ryan, is this the kit you're using?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's for the Sharkbite VRX, which you can't buy anymore, and then the HD0 video receiver VRX. He's got a kit for that also, and that's the one I recommend.
My 65 millimeter Renegade Whoop was 28. What was it? 28.7 grams or something like that, all up. I don't know. Hey, you got me beat though. You got me beat by a few grams.
Now, yeah, I'll say like you don't have to get these antennas to get really good. Performance.
Well, no, like I said, I use True RC on almost everything. Except I do use the Martin Baird patch, the right hand, left hand patch, on my race goggles, just because I can swap back and forth between the two very quickly. Because some of the places I fly, they're doing right hand, left hand channels depending on what frequency you're on.
Yeah.
Right. With HD0, we basically have been given a pass, and when we go to a race, they say, you can just be whatever polarity you want. It doesn't matter. And the reason they do that is because there's no bleed over.
Okay.
The digital spectrum is like really, really flat, and then it has a cliff. Where analog is a bell curve like this, and it kind of extends technically to infinity with it, but it's dropping off in intensity. And there's a really tall peak in the center, and that tall peak causes intermodulation distortion on other neighboring channels. So you don't have any of that crap with digital, which is great, and just makes everything a little bit cleaner for everyone.
Yeah. There's let me see. There was another question that I had. about goggles. So, let's go through the list of which goggles it will fit. Is it the HD02s and HD01s that all have the HDMI port?
Anything that has the HDMI port is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything
Alright.
with an HDMI input will work. Sometimes I fly from my PC monitor or my TV. If you put the TV
Okay.
in like a game mode to turn off processing.
Nice. Zach doesn't realize we're live right now and just messaged me. He said, "You ever have one axis that has more noise than another?"
What happened to my wrench?
When
What? I'm lost. Props off. Yeah, I've been really debating on getting some kind of high def. I don't know.
So this is what I recommend. I recommend getting the new HD0 goggle because it's badass.
I'm down.
And I recommend
I'll test them.
if you have a good set of analog goggles,
Yeah,
if
you could hook me up with a test set, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, you want to test the goggle?
Yeah, so I would be happy to be on the test team.
I'd be happy to be on the test team too, but I need to build up some funding first before I can do it.
Yeah,
I have all the goggles right now, and I'm wanting the HD0 ones now.
Well, it's like every time I think about, like when I thought about dropping for DJI, then comes HD0, and then I'm like, okay, well I'm going to drop for HD0, and then here comes freaking Fat Snail.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of confusion for everyone.
So it's like,
yeah,
and guess what? None of them are compatible with each other. So pick one.
So
hey Matt,
and then join the hater battle on Facebook.
Yeah.
Skittles just told you to back off. He said, "I'm first in line for the goggles."
Hey now.
So I wanted to say, I think you should get the VRX if you have a little bit of cash and you want a ride-along goggle, right?
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing with HD0 too. It's a broadcast system, so there's no pairing or anything. There's no audience mode that you have to worry about. You can just fire up another goggle, another receiver, and someone can ride along.
Now,
so that's what I recommend is like grab the VRX now if you want to start flying now and you want to have a ride along goggle later. And then the HD0 goggle, I could talk for a long time about that.
So
it's
speaking of
awesome.
Dub Squared FPV says,
what are these
goggles going to cost? Do we know yet?
I don't know.
Well, keep me in mind for the tester gig. I'll see if I can build up some bank for it. Because I'd love to try the new stuff. To be honest, when DJI came out, I was in no financial position to switch over almost 30 rigs to freaking DJI. I was like, no. Like, if I did that, I would be able to afford maybe one or two good DJI rigs, and then the rest I'd stay analog anyway.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you some things about this goggle. Like, it's got an analog bay that you can get. It's not included. The analog bay is an add-on.
Yeah.
But the super cool thing about the analog input on this is it's got a deinterlacer for the analog input that basically doubles the vertical resolution that you see in the screen in the goggle. And then it also has an upscaler. So you can see what this looks like if you look at the HD0 Event VRX video. Everybody looks at it and goes, that's analog? That looks freaking awesome. So the HD0 goggle, I think, is going to be one of the best goggles for analog.
It's sounding like it. And if it's got a bay for analog, then that, for somebody in my position where making the jump to something like that and only having the funds available to get one or two VRX units and the goggles, it makes it a lot easier because I don't have to make that as a final decision.
Right. You don't have to transition everything over. You can have one goggle that does digital, HD0, and analog. And the analog looks better than any analog goggle you've run.
Yes.
I can almost say that with like complete confidence based on what I've been seeing with the Event VRX. And then it also has an HDMI input and an analog like 3.5 input. So if you want to plug in like alternative system HD receiver, you could do that, right? So if the Walk Snail Avatar or whatever it is comes out with a VRX, you could mount it to the front of the goggle, plug it into HDMI, and now you have HD0, Walk Snail, analog, all in one goggle.
Damn.
Which is awesome.
Crazy.
So, Myopic FPV, Brett, he is one of our patrons, and he says the Event VRX absolutely changed the game for feed quality at every single I/O track this year, whether analog or HD0. So they've got one going, and it seems like no matter what, they've been very pleased with it with I/O. So
yeah, I/O was great.
Yeah, that was a good time. I'm still recovering.
Yeah, the stream video. If you guys go look at some of the stream video for the team race and for the final champs race, definitely the Event VRXs were awesome this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a high quality recording that I did, and I put it up on my channel. So if you look,
Matt,
on there, you'll see the finals, the last I think 2 or 3 races.
Wow, every other filament has clogged my nozzle today with this print, but this industrial stuff is pushing through and doing it clean. So I hope it works. Wonder where Geppetto is tonight.
Let's see. The global qualifier. No.
Oh, you're looking at my channel?
Yep.
It's probably like multi-GPIO championship. Michael won it, something like that.
That would have been a month and a half ago, right?
The title of the video is Analog Looks Better with HD0 Event VRX.
Hey Ryan, Skittles says, how does the Event VRX have 4 receivers with only 2 antennas?
There we go.
Yeah, that was a suggestion that I think Armando at 533 made. He said, "Hey, is there any way you could squish this down so you only need 2 antennas for the whole thing because you're doing it in one box?" So there's a splitter in the circuit on the antennas, so that one antenna will go to multiple receivers.
Nice. Make it big.
One of these is HD0, by the way. Do you know which one?
The clear one?
They're all pretty decent, actually. So Neukel's in the
I'm gonna say
the top middle.
The left middle.
That's what I was thinking too. The left middle.
Left middle, and I'd say bottom middle has some breakup, but not much.
No, the top middle is Neukel on HD0.
Top middle, okay.
Now at night it's harder to see the detail.
Yeah,
so that's one of the reasons.
But in terms of breakup, there's only very, very slight little static lines coming through.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's on par, almost exactly the same as what the analog guys are getting too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's only 25 milliwatts also. So
yeah,
yeah, 25. We were also running kind of like a handicapped setup. We had a left-hand antenna and a right-hand antenna on the same VRX. Normally, you'd have two right hands. So the HD0 was also only had two antennas, but yeah, it did fine. And then if you go to the second half of the video, that's where it's only 4 up. And that's a lot easier to see. So Neukel's in the upper left. So what we're looking at on the analog is it's deinterlaced, so you get double the vertical resolution, and it's upscaled. So it's this using the HDMI output out of the Event VRX. And then I recorded it at a really high bit rate on the DVR system. So this is as good as analog's ever going to look. And the digital HD0 stuff is kind of handicapped, but it still looks good.
Now, which you're using goggle DVR?
This is from the Event VRX.
Okay.
So it's going to OBS, recording on the PC. Yeah, this was at 3 a.m. after we waited out the rain. It was nuts. It's a good time. I was surprised Neukel didn't spike it.
He may have been down to his last quad. I didn't know Carl was there.
Yeah, Carl was there. Carl helped set up a lot of the tracks, actually.
Yeah, this was way early in the morning. Yeah, something weird always goes like delays champs.
Mm-hmm.
This year it was rain.
So what were we talking about? We were talking about the goggle?
Yeah. Yep. And how much I want one of those HD0 test sets.
So, like, my point is, if you still fly analog and want to keep on flying some analog, I think it's actually going to be a badass goggle for analog.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of quads, so I mean, I guess kind of like Dan, the chances of me being able to swap over all my quads or even all my favorite quads right off the bat is going to be pretty slim, because you're talking, all the race, just for the race quads, $70 a piece, so plus the camera. So 100 and something bucks per race quad, and I've got 3 race quads. So
no, I figure you make the change over time as you're building new stuff. Also, when you start flying more of the HD stuff, it's more painful to fly the analog, especially if it's an older analog. Yeah. It's a little bit beat up or just older.
Yeah, the Whoop VTX is a little bit less.
Mm-hmm. The other thing coming with the goggle is it's going to have really, really tight latency. So no drifting, no weird stutters ever due to HDMI, none of that. It'll have a glass-to-glass 4 millisecond latency, which is just absurd.
Nice.
And then the other thing is it's a 90 hertz screen. So it'll be able to do 60 hertz content and then also switch to a 90 hertz mode. The 90 hertz mode, there's a new camera coming out, a pro camera coming out. It's only going to work with digital because analog can't do higher than 60 hertz. So we'll have 90 hertz at a little bit lower resolution, HD. Well, it won't be HD. We'll just call it digital at that point. Mm-hmm. So that's the reasons to get the goggle. I'm pretty stoked.
Skittle says his buddy put 30,000 kV 802s on his Mob HD0 Whoop, and it freestyles pretty well.
30,000.
Who the hell makes a 30,000 kV 802? Dude?
That's
Okay,
gotta be one of Jesse's little toys.
Is that, are those like bi-blades or something? Like, I can't imagine running tri-blades at 30,000 kV.
I can't either.
802 is the motor size, 0802.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be an
Yeah.
0802. An 07 or 06 wouldn't make that.
An 0802. As a matter of fact, I think I know
Tri-blades.
motor that is too.
Okay.
Pretty sure I know what motor that is.
I'd like to see that video. I'd like to see the battery just explode.
I'm worried he's using like old school AOKs with like 6 magnets instead of 12. Dude, I'm serious. They made an 0802 that was super high kV, just like they made my 1106s.
Oh no, Jesse's got danger onesie red rockets.
Well, I know that T-Motor has an 0802 for 25,000 kV. So,
well, Jesse's got here.
But 30,000, that's
2750, right? Or 27.
No, Jesse's got 0802 30,000 kV.
Yep, there they are.
I do not recommend the motors.
I knew that was one of Jesse's new ones. Those are the new ones he just came out.
I do not recommend these. That's funny.
The tiny group, yeah.
He's got them at 27,000, 25,000, 22,000.
I really like his gold 25,000 kVs. That's the ones I'm running on my custom 65 millimeter.
He's got 0702 gold 26,000.
There we go.
Trying to think, what motors did you send me, Dan?
I sent you the 25. No, the 22,000s. The Pickle Power or whatever the hell they are.
But yes,
aren't those 0803s?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So here's look at that.
22s or what?
Those are sexy. These are the 30,000 kV Unibells.
Oh wow.
Jesse said he'd send me a set or whatever, but I'm looking into doing another battery order through him for my 4S batteries. But I really wanted to get his new motors because he's just put them in stock. I haven't tried the Hex ones yet. I want to try those. Those look awesome. Ooh, he has new boards in stock too? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I heard he restocked everything.
Yeah, I was talking to him at when he was at Multi-GPIO.
Yeah, but which one's a good board?
The first one, upper left.
The Beta FPV one?
Yeah, that's the one I'm running on my custom one. It's like the lightest one you can get. It doesn't have a VTX in it. Well, so I like that one because I'm putting a HD0 VTX on top.
Nice.
The problem with a lot of these though is that they've got a SPI ELRS receiver, and that's been deprecated, which means that it's not deprecated. It means that they're not gonna provide any more updates for it.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
Defecated, what?
Defecated, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word.
It went shit.
Yeah.
Make sure not to plug it in right away. Ensure to put it in DFU, then flash before it breaks. That's what eDoc says.
So Ryan, the goggles have a mic on them, right?
Yes.
I mean, mic port.
Actually, right? It's got a mic jack. So the HD0 VRX has a built-in mic, but it sounds it's really noisy.
Can
so I asked him to put an external mic? Yeah, this is a cable like a headphone microphone combo jack.
Oh man, okay.
Oh,
that's exactly what you use for the earbud.
Yes, that's right. Back when we used to have 3.5 jacks on phones.
Now, can you get to the mic on that VRX? I mean, the VTX?
On the VTX.
Right. You said there was a mic on the VTX, correct?
It's on the VRX, the receiver.
No, the VRX.
The receiving end. Yep. So it's a pit mic.
Okay.
And yes, you can get to the mic and you could potentially relocate it. I think I saw someone do that.
Hey, Ryan. Props Off has a question about temperature. Do you have a video of the temperature of the HD0 VRXs at different intervals, I guess? I'm not sure I understand the question myself. Props Off asked it, and I just had to scroll back through to find. Nate is awesome. Love his channel. Who's talking? Oh, yeah, Shutterbug. Yeah. So, in terms of temperature, how does HD0 do? I guess
it's hot.
Gets hot.
Yeah.
Like dangerously hot, or
it's like DJI hot.
Okay.
So if you can let it sit on the bench for maybe a couple minutes without airflow, and then after a while it'll shut off to protect itself. You can do some things like you can go into a 0 milliwatt mode. That's what that pit switch is, basically. Okay. Where the VTX will still be running and processing commands from the flight controller, but it turns the power amp off.
Oh, okay.
So you can flick a switch and you'll have video instantly. You can flick a switch and you have video off.
Okay.
Now I really want these goggles bad.
Yeah, dude.
Ever since they started showing pictures, I said, "Oh boy, here we go again."
Yep.
Because I just got the fat snail ones to test out and give help when people needed it. That's the only reason I got those. Well, that was Matt's words. I just used.
Yeah. What's it called again? Fat snail.
Fat snail.
Fat snail. I like it.
It's not the first time I've heard that.
Right.
I think they should have called it Run Snail.
I don't. I don't understand why Fat Shark has their own name for the goggle in the system, and then
I don't know why either. But when they started their own Facebook group, Matt and I almost died. It was so funny at the very beginning of that group, dude. When there was like 10, 20 people in it, it was amazing.
It might be a great product. There might be some great people behind it. It's goofy. The way it started, it was goofy.
God,
it's confusing. A lot of people got confused, and they were asking all these questions. I said, "Look, they're the same, but they decided to split the name instead of going, one route."
Yeah.
I guess one wanted notoriety regardless of what the goggle was, but I'm sitting there saying to myself, it's the goggle itself is a Fat Shark. The internals might be something different, but still, why wouldn't you just call them what they are? Is they're the Fat Sharks, period.
Well, Skittles suggested it, and I agree, but it's something I thought about a while ago too. It's most likely just some sort of a workaround so that they can end up selling it to the military at some point.
Yeah, but is our military really duped that easy?
Is embargoed here,
right?
Yeah.
And Fat Shark and DJI have been trying to sort of figure this out. Now, the thing that's getting me is the funny or the irony that's getting me is the fact that it's now caused so much drama with Rotor Riot because Drew friggin' made some comment where it's like,
you don't get to know.
The Video RX? And then he was like, you don't get to know. And it was it blew up. I was like, yes.
True,
man. He should not have made that video.
No.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
He shouldn't have made that video.
That was so amazing. It was so amazing.
It was okay.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad for him, but it was gold.
Dude, the backlash that hit with that was just spectacular. I was just sitting in all of the groups, just laughing hysterically, watching it all unfold.
It was okay. It was good entertainment for the FPV community.
Yes,
That's what that was.
That it was. It definitely.
William knows that every now and again, when it's worthwhile, I like to troll in my own little sarcastic way. But that one, I didn't even want to touch with a 10-foot pole because Drew and I already kind of are on like shaky ground. So, like Stacy loves us. Don't get us wrong. Stacy loves optimized drone. But Drew can be indifferent sometimes.
I really did and do feel bad for him about that. Like he just
too.
got whipped up into the moment and made a reaction video, and he shouldn't have. He should not have done that.
Oh!
Yeah, he let his emotional get a little bit ahead of him, and man,
oh, my face hurts.
Have you seen the meme videos where they made music videos out of it?
No.
Oh no!
I haven't seen those. I haven't gone looking either.
I did see the video that I think it was Zorro. Zorro made it, and it was the Bardwell spoof with him being like, "I just want to be inside of these goggles," or something like that. It was just freaking amazing. He did this loop like, oh my god. In terms of, are you guys doing a full-on AIO that incorporates HD0 as one unit at any point in time, or is that in the plan?
I don't think so, because when I look at the amount of real estate needed for the VTX, it's using the top and the bottom of the board. So Carl's openly talked about the Generation 2 ASIC, which I'm surprised he talked about it. That's like a 2-year, 3-year type of thing.
Yeah.
The Gen 2 ASIC pulls all of the components, the big chips that you see on the board, into one.
Okay.
So I think, don't quote me on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets down to a point where you have the OSD chip on a AIO. It might take up that type of footprint. Okay. Plus like the power amp would be separate, and the UFL connector would be separate. But I think it would be like that size footprint on the board, plus the power amplifier, plus the antenna.
Okay.
So that's like 2-3 years, and only if the community is supporting them, so they can continue making stuff. And then that's also a 1080p 60 ASIC, so big bump in resolution and also better RF noise handling, which is all I can really say about it. I don't know a lot about it. I'm surprised he talked about it, but since he did talk about it, that's what I'll say.
There we go.
But yeah, if you look at the OSD chip on our AIOs, the thing's gigantic compared to the rest of the components.
So Matt, what are you looking at there?
Trying to pick a Whoop board. All the ones on Tiny Whoop are either ELRS or FrySky DSMX.
Well, then maybe you should make the switch to ELRS finally.
Yeah, props off.
Oh, why the hell would I do
that? Well, because I did, and it's fun.
No, thank you.
But so let's see. Can we swing race that? Should tell everybody about it just in case they didn't watch your entire video as I did at Optimized Drone.
So
wish I could swing your team racing at your team racing event.
So
Swing?
I'm hosting an event at my local flying field in West Michigan at the end of August, and we're gonna have the HD0 goggle beta test unit there for anyone to try out. And then anybody that comes to the event will get in line to get first batch.
What
on the
what area
goggle.
in Michigan
Plus
did you say you were?
West Michigan, Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I've got
I got a few pilots up there that I could get out to that event probably.
Yeah. So you come to the event, try out the goggle, get a discount, and also first dibs on the first batch. And then the event itself, I'm really excited for it because it's a team racing event, which is basically a relay race where we're going to be running the race continuously. Normally with drone racing, it's like a 3-minute stint, and then your battery's done, and then it's over, and then there's like a 5 to 10 minute break until the next heat. The team race is just you have let's say 6 teams running at once. They run one guy runs until he runs out of battery, and then he goes and lands in the pit stall, and then his buddy takes off on the same channel. So you're just continuously flying and trying to get the most number of laps.
Yeah.
Yeah, the team races that I've seen, they allow the pilots to fly. They'll bring 5 or 6 of their own quads and then fly them until all of their batteries are dead, and then switch out.
Yeah, so that's the other thing you can do. Yep.
Now, Ryan, I thought you said you could have up to 3 pilots, but it was 2 pilots were, supposed to be, or was it something of that nature?
Yeah,
if I remember right in the video.
Yes. Yep. So I made some changes to the format a little bit from normal team races. Normal team race, you're gonna have a team of maybe 3 to 4 pilots, plus maybe 3 to 4 like support people that are just there to change props and batteries.
There you go, props off.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So you basically have a huge team of people with one guy flying at a time. I wanted to change that up so that you've got smaller teams of people, 2 to 3, where you're going to be flying like a lot. If you're on the team, you're going to be flying. And the other thing I see with these team race events is they'll make like the fastest guy do all the laps. They'll just keep on giving him more batteries, which I think is a little bit lame. I want to have. I think that's lame. I think people should be flying. So we're going to be running 3S batteries on 6S drones to slow things down. So it's freedom spec basically, and only maximum of 3 pilots per team to really force people to have to fly. It'll be a lot of fun though.
Because I remember in the video, it didn't say there was battery changes. It said the next guy was going to have his drone ready, and then once the one guy lands and shuts off, the next one can just take right off.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and there's 2 ways you can do it. You can have, let's say, 3 of your own drones, all bound to your radio, and you could do like a team race, let's call it, with just 1 pilot, where you land your first drone, you fail safe the first one, and then you activate the second drone and you launch the second drone. You're flying the second drone. Then you fail safe the second drone and then activate the third drone and then you launch.
Okay. So props off. You have a wrench, so you can share that link if you want. Skittles has been asking, 1, have you guys talked about MLDR at all? That looks exciting.
Is that Major League Drone Racing?
I guess so. And he also brought up, Matt, you should for sure switch to ELRS for whoops. D8 is trash. I agree with that wholeheartedly, but in terms of, I think I've only got 1 whoop that was ever on D8, to be honest. Most of them were D16 or Crossfire.
Yeah, both mine are Crossfire right now.
Yeah, and then he said, I guess if you run Red Pine on them, it's fine. Red Pine's great. I was running Red Pine on my 1D8 rig. It was wonderful. But ELRS changed the game for me, and I even swapped most of my Crossfire rigs out. Yeah, that's AK's thing, the Major League Drone Racing. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a link for it? When I look that up on Google.
Hey Skittles, I'm going to add you as a moderator. Can you drop that link to MLDR?
I have talked to those guys before.
Yeah.
It's sounding pretty cool. I'm really interested. It's hard to find any info on Google though. If you search for the Major League Drone Racing, you get like DRL.
Yeah, I'm gonna message Anthony tomorrow and see if I can get him to post up in Optimized Drone with it, so that our viewers can at least get a link to it and see. There we go. Props off. Put up your video. Here is Ryan's video of the goggle update and team racing event.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who wants to watch that, Matt, you can put that up if you want. I think, yeah, Skittles is going to put up a link for MLDR. And Anthony, man, if you're watching, shoot me a message. Because we'd love to promote that for you, man. So throw us a link. Here we go. Let me take a look at this.
Have you guys seen any of the street leagues popping up? Because we've got them popping up all over here in California. And I got invited to join one, so.
Virginia, there's not much of a scene. There's like me, Carlton, Robert, Anthony, and Crazy Jimmy, and then Michael Fuller. Like, that's pretty much, and like Richard Barber, like a few people, but there's not really too much of a scene here. So hasn't been much street league stuff, but I've seen a bunch of it popping up in random places. Like Colorado's been a big one too.
Yeah, my only problem is it's 2 hours away from me, so that's not going to happen for me.
Yeah. Looks like there's probably one starting up in Detroit. So a few people are flying those now in Detroit and trying to get people to get into it. So I flew one yesterday.
So Raphael? Raphael just popped in, and he's one of our regular supporters.
He's one of my team pilots too.
Yes, he is. And to be fair, we've also considered Raphael a few times because he's constantly been wanting to test some Gank rigs, and I remember I was chatting with him for a long time when the HOM FPV wingsuit came out. So yeah, Raphael's a great pilot. Bleak FPV for anybody looking for his channel.
Mm-hmm. Props off. Message me later. I might do a little sponsorship for you guys over there.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to get something going out here, man. Whether it's a whoop racing or what. I got to get something going.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I still have my logo up. Sorry.
Yeah, I think in Grand Rapids we might do Street League. We just had to get a critical mass of people with the quads. Right now, only one of us has one built up, and I'm thinking about building one.
Now, what are the full specs for the Street League? I haven't really dove into that too much.
Yeah, that's basically it's a 7-inch drone. The weight I think is around 1 kilogram, all up. It's a 5S 2200 battery. The motors I think are 25, 27. I can't remember. It's a big motor. The weird thing with the motors is there's a it's not a specific motor that it's limited to. It's just they have this ESC configuration tool that they can kind of spec and derate the motor that you put on it so that it's going to the certain RPM and power output. And then they have, I think, one prop right now that you have to run, but it sounds like there's more than one prop coming out. Whole thing is to try and get everybody on a level playing field, but still allow for some variation between manufacturers.
Okay.
It sounds cool.
Now, I've got the R4LA built up, the 7-inch R4LA, the DRL drone.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got that one built up, but I don't think it would be very competitive with the Street League one. It might be.
It might be. I was flying
heavy.
the Street League stuff yesterday, and it's yeah, heavy, heavy and slow.
Yeah.
So I just messaged AA, but AA brought up a point here. I'm drifting back to ELRS because I feel it's necessary. He said watching everybody go to ELRS is freaking me out because it doesn't look like a bandwagon but a full ship. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it wasn't a bandwagon. It was, they tested it. Dominic Clifton and the Happy Model guys, they didn't hype it. It wasn't one of those big hype buy things where, like DJI or any of the others, where it was just advertised like crazy and then everybody bought on it because it was hyped up by all these people. They legit tested it for 2 years. Like Dominic's been working on this for a while. And Dominic's agreed to be on the show too. We just have to figure out scheduling because he's in Spain. So, but
you talk about Dominic Clifton?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's been doing a lot with ELRS, and with my understanding is the reason it hasn't been a bandwagon thing, and why the whole community's just kind of started shifting to it, is because it's been word of mouth. It's like ELRS was something that I didn't even hear about until Dominic told me about it. And even then, I bought a module, I bought a bunch of receivers, and then I waited like 5 months. Hold on 1 minute. And then I waited like 4 or 5 months before I ever even installed it into my TX. And because I didn't really believe it. I was like, I'm not going to notice any difference. I'll try it, whatever. But the second I put it on my rigs, as just a cinematic freestyle person, I noticed the difference. And not being a racer or somebody that's that in tune with that sort of a difference, that really opened my eyes for ELRS. I no longer had that fear of staring at the LQ all the time because it never really dropped like the Crossfire did at certain distances. It never really ducked away when I went behind trees or under power lines, like it was never a problem anymore. And my confidence level in general rose.
Yeah. And you just shouldn't have to be thinking about your control link.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That was the same sort of feeling I had when I made the switch from FR Sky to Crossfire in the first place. Because I noticed such a difference in reliability and like no more fail safes, etc. And my confidence rose and I was able to learn more tricks and get better at flying. I honestly feel that when I started using ELRS, I stopped wanting to fly my Crossfire rigs. And I know Crossfire is a phenomenal system and I still use it. But the thing that opened my eyes about it the most was the fact that for somebody who doesn't go as aggressive as most of these other pilots and doesn't need that super fast noticeable refresh or anything, I noticed it. And that surprised the hell out of me. And that's why I will continue with ELRS until either A, something that is noticeably better comes along, or B, it's the end all be all for me, you know?
I think ELRS is it.
I think it's going to be it. And I
no,
think
it is it.
yeah.
It's past the point of, well, maybe I'll test the waters. It's hop on the bandwagon time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everybody keeps saying, "Oh shit!" It seems like a bandwagon, but the community's just shifting. They're not even jumping on the bandwagon. It's just a shift. Like, and I
You
agree with
mentioned marketing. I think there's no marketing for it because one,
exactly.
it doesn't need it, but two, the receivers are like $12. There's not a lot of
Yeah,
profit margin in the receivers. So a TBS receiver, or
30 bucks.
name other brand here, they're all like $30. Well, I think the chips are the same between the TBS stuff and the Ghost stuff. Well, I know the Ghost stuff is the same because, fun fact, you can actually flash a Ghost RX and TX to be a ELRS RX or TX. So it's the same hardware. I don't know how much the chips cost, but one is $12 and one is $30. The other one was going to pay for the R&D and to have a good healthy profit margin.
Yes.
So if you the reason you're going to switch to ELRS is the cost, if anything.
Yeah. 100%.
Like it's $12 per quad versus 30.
And that was the thing. Like, as I said, I had a whole kit just sitting here waiting for months, and it was because I bought that whole kit with I think I had 4 receivers and the Happy Model module, the nano module for the jumper T Lite, and that whole kit in total cost me like $65. Like buying the whole transfer kit for Crossfire is 140. Like so it's a noticeable difference in that too, in your wallet. And for the RC community where we burn out everything we touch all the time, that's a very good thing.
I think the main problem with ELRS right now is it is a pain in the ass to set up compared to Crossfire, where you have over-the-air updates. You don't have to use a configurator on the PC to flash firmware.
Yeah, they do have they're dealing with a cell phone app, sort of, or like Android type configurator as well. I do wish the configurator was more user friendly, but once I got used to how it works, and once I got used to how it has to link into the pass through, or if you're doing it via Wi-Fi or whatever, then I started getting the hang of it. Like any others, if you learn the system after a while, you're like, oh, okay, this is easy breezy. But
wouldn't it be great if people didn't have to learn so many things to get into the hobby?
Exactly.
So I think there's a huge opportunity for TBS, Orca, whoever else, to come in with a much more polished system.
Yeah.
But in terms of capability and performance and price, nothing is going to beat ELRS. I'm pretty confident of it.
Agreed.
So everyone's just switching to it because it's once you know, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everybody, Raphael's like Crossfire all day, and yeah, Crossfire. Like guys, I'm not knocking Crossfire at all. I use Crossfire. I Trappy, and I have chatted many a time. It's fine. But it, like, in terms of functionality and price and everything and reliability, I don't know. I just can't go back to Crossfire anymore. Like, I don't know why. I don't have any rigs built with Crossfire anymore. I just have my controller.
Yeah. That's that.
I'm mostly Crossfire. I still got a couple of old Fly Sky, well, a lot of old Fly Sky quads. that I haven't converted over yet.
Yeah. FPV Skittles, I've been running the 900 megahertz ELRS on one of my radios and 3 of my rigs. It's been fantastic, and I've compared it to the Crossfire 2, and I really can't tell the difference between the two except for a couple of little things, but you won't notice anything really.
And that's the thing, like, unless you dive super deep into it, you're not going to find too much wrong with the LRS. Whereas with Crossfire, there's always the constant different updates that if you don't match it, you're going to have issues, you know, or it's not going to bind or whatever. And that, for me, that was always infuriating with Crossfire, is always constantly having to update freaking everything.
What?
Props off. I think Ryan had already somewhat touched on that.
Dude, I bought my Tango 2 a year ago, and I just updated for the first time, and it was flipping simple.
Dude, my module's been nothing but chaos in terms of that, because I've got the Micro TX2 module, and it doesn't have the screen on it. So I have to use either button press method for all that stuff, or I have to go into Agent X or Agent M, both of which have had super glitchy performance recently.
Use Agent M. Agent X, it's been freaking glitchy and has trouble. I was told to use Agent M when I updated mine. I did, and it was no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, Agent M's been working for me. I recently had to deal with building Crazy Jimmy's rigs up again, and he had a couple of new receivers that I had to reflash pretty much everything, including my TX module, just to get them to read. So I was kind of upset by that, but that's the thing. Like, once you get it all flashed, Crossfire will auto bind to all of its things. But it was just frustrating to me. But ELRS has been a lot more reliable in terms of that.
So at Props Off, what I mentioned a little bit ago was that Ryan had already kind of touched on the AIO and the HD0 system coming into a wood-size board. So kind of a difficult thing, but I can let Ryan kind of reiterate on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's complicated. With the current ASIC, no, is the answer. But maybe in the future, a couple years.
Shrinky. Shrink the chips. It's not that hard. I actually work in the semiconductor industry, so it's all about shrinking chips.
Yeah. I think this is like something like 40 nanometer or something process. That's a whole interesting thing. Like the chip fabs are trying to get everybody, I think, over to minimum the biggest size they want to do is 28 nanometer.
They're doing like 7 and 11 right now.
15. No, I'm saying like they want to get rid of the bigger process nodes.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the equipment that they're buying, as far as the exposure equipment, is they'll only work in a certain window. So you've got a lot of foundry fabs that are trying to get to this next shrink level to get the chips that and the amount of chips that their customers want per wafer, right? Because they're making these on 12-inch wafers. So the smaller we can do line size, the more chips we can put on a wafer. So more chips you can put on a wafer, the less money it costs to make them, so on and so forth. So
yeah, but there's potentially less yield, right? You might get more failures going to a smaller process.
Potentially, but it depends. Like I said, depends on the equipment that they're being made on. On the cheap Chinese equipment, sure. On the level of equipment like Intel and AMD and Samsung and everybody are using on their chips, no problem. they're getting like 80+% yield per wafer. So Intel, I believe, is closer to like 92 or something like that. Well, that's their target. I won't say that they meet that all the time, but yeah, it's I mean, you lose a little there. You have the potential to lose more yield due to like dust particles getting on the wafer and things like that because the lines are closer. It's much easier to short them. It's also much harder to etch them. But yeah, it's kind of interesting seeing everything move to EUV right now, which is 12 nanometers and below. It's kind of fun.
I think all that stuff is restricted, so certain countries don't have access to it. I think China doesn't have access to EUV.
Nope. No, they don't, or not currently anyway. And they've got limited access to our equipment. I think there's only a couple places that our company sells to, and I think TSMC in Taiwan is the big one, but technically that's not China yet.
Don't tell China that.
Yeah, I'm not beholden to China for anything.
Let me tell you, I'll make a prediction. World War III starts when China invades Taiwan.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I think there's going to be a push for it, but anyway.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, who knows with this guy in office? So. FPV Gap says he's going to stick to analog until the HD0 goggles come out.
It's fine.
Right?
They're almost solid. I know that much. They're getting there. Right, Ryan?
The only criticism I had on the renderings that I saw was that I would like to see the antenna mounts not be so recessed because I have a feeling it's going to be hard to tighten down some antennas with that recessed mount.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, they look great.
The Carl did a video where he took the physical prototype and hand tightened all of the antennas and different types of antennas.
Well, I've got big old sausage fingers, not tiny little Chinese hands, so.
Fair point. So maybe the goggle will come with a tightening tool. But
that would be awesome.
I'll tell you the reason for the recesses and stuff like that is for practicality. The idea is you should not have to take these darn antennas on and off, on and off, on and off every time you want to go fly.
If he sells them with a case that fits with the antennas on it, that's another big bonus point in my book there.
That's what's happening. So
that's the goal. That's
you get some stubbies that are going to go in there. They're going to be well protected. Won't be able to knock side to side. And there's also a patch antenna slide-on kit that'll slide onto the front rails, and then you can screw that on, and you just leave it permanently mounted. But if you want to swap it out, it's pretty quick to swap out.
Okay.
Hey, Matt, I'm going to send you one of these 3D printed ones I made for antennas.
Nice.
What material is that?
This material is a carbon PLA that I used.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, it's solid. It doesn't split or spread. It's really tough. So, but I had to cure it in the oven for a little bit. I think 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
That's
okay,
awesome.
Good. Yeah, because I would have thought standard PLA would shatter.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's got to be carbon in there, but I had to cure it also for the carbon. So,
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What in the hell?
Let's see here.
I need to watch this before I show it. There's a video I just came across on YouTube that says tiny 1 kilowatt electric bike motor, and the guy's holding up a freaking FPV motor in his hand. So
yeah, I saw that somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, was that a Tom Stanton thing?
Yep.
He's legit. He's
Yeah, Tom's awesome.
Yeah, he's an aerospace engineer, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, and he made just a brushless quad motor into. I forget how he did it, but watch it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, exactly. He 3D prints like a mofo. That man can 3D print.
But he had problems with cooling the motor, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet.
How the hell does that even have enough torque, even with all that stuff?
Finally a use for that Korea cryo spray, right? that motor cooling spray that they were using before races and stuff. Matt's intrigued. We've lost Matt. He has disappeared.
Yes. Next time you see him, he's going to have a homemade e-bike.
Yeah, he's going to make an e-bike.
I might have to post some of the pictures I've done of my e-motorcycle.
Oh, please. Dude,
That's soon. I'm still working on the battery compartments.
He's just running it off an Arduino.
Will, you've seen my e-mobility scooter, right?
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool.
I hooked up. I make it run off of two big 6S batteries now instead of these stupid lead acid that never held a charge or anything or had no punch. And now it goes a lot faster, can cruise a lot smoother, and can charge up the batteries in an eighth of the time. When I don't blow out my power supply. No, yeah. So
earlier today.
Hey, Matt, make my screen big for a sec. I made something today. Hold on, I gotta turn off this shit. So here we go. So William saw me. He was a party to this. I blew out my power supply on my chargers because apparently my power supply was only rated for about 3 amps, and I was charging a big 6S that was 3,300 milliamps. So I charged it at 3.3, and like a dumbass, I didn't check my power supply. And it fried. So I just beefed it up with, I pulled this bad boy from a server farm my buddy and I did. We've got a few of them, but let's see, it's a 30 volt or a 22 to 30 volt, 13 amp, 300 watt giant power supply. And I'm going to be running my 3 different chargers off of this thing. So that one should not fry now.
Yeah, I've got a couple of the Dell 240 watt laptop power supplies that I use to run my K2 and my. I got one running my K2 and the other one running my 2 Q8s.
You can make me small again. I don't need to be showcased. Especially while eating noodles. So Ryan, is there anything that you want to touch on with HD0 that we haven't really hit on yet?
Hmm.
Or any promos that you want to run through, or affiliates or anything?
No, haven't really got into that side of things either. Let's see. HD0, people usually compare the resolution, the apparent resolution that you get out of the system versus DJI.
Yeah.
Well,
They're doing it all the time.
they do it all the time. They show you, a static picture of, look, I pointed this thing at a wall, and it's not moving. I don't know about you, but when I'm flying, I'm moving.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time. I'm not just static.
Wait, so you fly drones? That means you just hover around, right?
Actually, I did buy one of those just hover around drones.
No.
I still have my Phantom 3 Pro, and I still
got
it.
my S500 I built because I couldn't afford a Phantom 3 Pro.
So if I want to do that, I do that.
I just bought a DJI Mini 3 Pro with the RC controller that's got the built-in monitor, so I don't have to have the DJI app on my phone and all that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I went out and bought
for it all.
I bought a 256 gig SD card, and I look, and it's got a terabyte of built-in storage. I was like, oh, that's a happy surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the point I was making with the apparent image resolution, the problem is the test. What you should do is go and fly real low and fast over the grass, or real close proximity to some trees.
See the blades of grass in there.
Yeah. What you see with 25 megabit DJI is it blurs like just big patches of ground. It gets hard to see. And it looks like the avatar system is even worse, or at least it was in the initial videos I saw. That's a really difficult problem to optimize. You have to pick, do you want to have more consistent latency in that scheme, or do you want to have sharper image? You can't have both. So the key with HD0 is it's more like analog. Each pixel block is independent from the last. There's no blurring. There's no interframe compression. It's extremely simple, and I think that's a benefit most people overlook.
Now, I know the latest firmware for the avatar system, it made that blur kind of almost minimal. So there was a lot less, but it still isn't refined like it needed to be. So
yeah, I don't have the system. It sounds like you do have it, right?
I do have it. Yeah.
Did the stutters increase? Did the stutters increase after that firmware update?
Not for me that I saw. I didn't really try any super fast twitchy turns. I was trying to just get the video picture to see if I saw the same blur from before that update. Yep. But what we were discussing was that Drew, he had the micro camera on his, and or the nano camera, and he didn't see the same blur that everybody else did on the micro. I don't know if you saw that part, but he was talking about that when Steele flew his, he had terrible blur and everything until the update, and then it got better. But I still haven't tested 100%. I've only flown once with the system, so that's what I saw.
Anyway. Yeah. Fly it some more, and just pay attention a lot to the consistency. My strong suspicion would be that they traded some stuttering for sharper image, or sorry. Yeah.
That sounds about right. So I'm gonna try to do the 3D setup on that rig because it's my new 3D rig, but I'll see if it does the stutters like it did on the other one. Or that DJI does on the other ones. So we'll see if those stutters are similar to what the DJI had.
Yeah.
So
And then the other bit I would point out with digital, you're still getting breakup a lot like you do with analog in almost the same spots that you would get it with analog. The difference though is that you don't get the image roll effect, and you don't get color shifting. So on the eyes, it's so much easier to fly through, in my opinion. So people see the breakup and they think like, how do you fly through that? It's so distracting. It's like, I don't notice it. I basically go, okay, it looks like my signal's reducing. I should pay attention to if my signal's going to get too low. And that's what I use it for. I'm not like hindered though as I'm flying, because you can see straight through all of the missing blocks to the blocks that are still there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And with analog, I'm getting a bunch of like warping and colors changing.
So Daniel says he doesn't usually get stutters or blurs unless his FC is shit.
that's because his rates are too low. He's a slow pilot.
The Bando King of the Southeast.
Yeah, freaking Bando Gap God.
Right.
I still can't believe he made that Matty, dude. That's the most ridiculous. Throw that up. Let's put that up. I want to see that. Dude, Ryan, if you haven't seen this yet, your mind's about to be blown. This
Okay,
is
you're
another
setting
one of
this
our
up.
team pilots, and he's in the chat right now.
I always pass over. There it is. I don't know why, but I always pass over him on my subscribed channels list the first time. So
You need more of that logo.
Mm-hmm.
This one right here.
I did see that one.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, did he get lucky, or how many times did he crash?
Is this
Danish
repeatable?
never gets
That's what I
lucky.
want to know. Did he repeat the same thing though?
Let's put it this way. He's a Jedi whose son is named Thor. Literally. So...
Right.
use the Force, Danish.
Right?
Right.
No, Danish, I'm pretty sure that was probably a happy accident, as Bob Ross would put it.
Yeah.
But either way, I like to think Danish tried and did it on the first try and was like, suck it. You know?
But you know that good video helps so much when you're doing those backwards Matty, gaps.
Right? You don't want any latency with that.
Right. as you can't see anything.
Right? It always makes me wonder if he had one of those cheater cam setups going on.
Or did he just reverse the video?
Yeah, I mean,
see?
he did it on Switch and just
if he did, even forward, that was impressive.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, he just reversed it. No, he went through both of them forward and then just power looped it. He didn't Matty at all.
It's still impressive that he power looped and, well,
stop putting him on a pedestal, Matt.
I don't know. I was impressed.
So he said second gap was happy, first was intentional. All right.
We need to set Danish up on 3D flying. Let's see him do that one.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Hey, William, did you see what I'm going to set up for some 3D fun?
No.
My, I'm putting a camera in it in a sec, but my 5-inch baby hawk.
Oh, wow. That's going to be crazy.
That's going to be fun. So, yeah. And it's got the Zoe props on it. So, yeah.
Well, that's a bottom battery, right?
Yeah, this is a bottom
Man.
mount. So
3D is so much easier with top mount battery. It's just,
I've heard. I do have the new skull. I could always set it up 3D. Like I'm not.
you can do
I
that.
like
I
because
would
I
recommend
was
that honestly. It
But
just
do you really
the
want
way
to risk?
it-
But do you really want to risk the skull learning how to fly 3D?
right.
Matt. I mean the new skull.
A frame that is no longer made.
No longer made. Yeah.
But I was gonna pull the ESCs and PDB off of this. What's Zoe up to these days? That is a good question. She is doing her own thing. She's kind of taking a break, but she's still flying.
Yeah.
I haven't
She's
talked
taking
to
a big
her.
breather.
Yeah, she's taking a big hiatus just for personal and mental health for that.
Mhm.
But I haven't talked to her in a bit. But last I talked to her, she was struggling, but okay, just in terms of mindset. She still wants to fly, and she still does go out and fly. She just doesn't post much. So just kind of leave her alone. Let her do her thing. Because Zoe is one of the true innovators of our fucking community. And due to a lot of the random drama and what happened to her with Crystal and Outcast and blah, 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 I'm not going to get into detail of any of it because it's just gives me a headache. But she has been shit on so hard by our community. And she is one of the best human beings in our community. So
She was in the beginning of X Class too. She came out
she
here and
started
with
X
alcohol
Class,
that's out
dude.
there.
She wasn't the beginning of it. She was the start of that. Like, and now
right with Colby Cortola, they were all out here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know, I went and watched them fly out here local to me. So,
and we had Matt Nowakowski and Colby on a little while ago. But Zoe, she wasn't even like she was in there with the start, but she's been an innovator since I started at least, which was 6 years ago, or like five or 6 years ago. But I remember watching her teaching like Matt Nowakowski how to fly his Beast class. You know, like I remember watching her just come up with the most random shit and just be like, I'm gonna code it to make it work. Like I don't care what it comes up with. And I was so excited about the Microhawk project. She put in some amazing work with the Arduino, connecting it all through iNav and running. Like, dude, I almost beat her time. She did 27 minutes on one battery, and that was with autonomous. I got 22 minutes with my setup, and that was with the Gank Nemesis Ultralight that I did with her 2S lithium-ion battery.
okay.
And I legit got 22 minutes of like proper freestyle flying. And I was surprised. Like, I was like, that's by the 10-minute point, my brain was like, okay, you're bored. Like, you need to come in and put a new battery in it. Like, what do we do now? What do I fly through now? I've flown all the things I need to fly. But that project got trashed right after Outcast pulled their fuckery. So, moral of the story is leave Zoe alone and she'll come back. We all miss her. We all want her to come back. She's doing her thing and she's doing okay. So let's just keep that in mind and keep in mind how much she's fucking done for our community, because our community wouldn't be anywhere near where it is without people like Zoe.
Well,
So.
I got into 3D drones because of watching her. Because I never even thought about it, because I was flying 3D helicopters. Well, even today, I'm way better LOS than I am FPV with 3D. It's just a whole weird experience. but it's slower. It's more, you have to feel everything and really see where your orientation is, and really pay attention to that when you're doing some of these freestyle or 3D tricks. That's the only thing I learned. But you can flip upside down and just hold it, and then if you can make it feel like you're floating down to the ground, and then just flip it right back up, which is it's a fun deal, but it gets you kind of dizzy when you first start if you do it too quick. At least for me, it did. But it's a lot of fun.
I don't know. I just never had the balls to try to 3D. I might want to eventually.
Yeah.
One day.
Just think of it this way, Matt. It's kind of freeing in a way. When you actually go inverted, you can literally sit there for a second and it feels like you're floating. All of a sudden you'll feel like you're dropping, but you really have to pay attention to your orientation. Like I said, you know, that's the biggest issue when you go, because you're full acro, you're upside down, you can, and you have to flip the throttle because you're midpoint on your throttle. So it starts midpoint. If you go too far up or down, it's almost the same way as you do with 3D helis. So your neutral point is in the center of your throttle stick, and then you go up for your lift, and then when you reverse it, when you flip it inverted, you're going down to get it to stay. You know, so that's the part you have to associate your brain with. That's the hardest part I found.
Well, that and trying to, I think recentering it at zero would be, or sorry, in the middle would be tough. I think I would find myself going into reverse on accident.
Well, there's no air mode to save you. You are in full control, so your throttle has to be spot on and really smooth. And I felt I got better as a pilot learning that, but then when I went to go fly my helis, it got worse. I don't know why, but it just did for me, because it went back to LOS when I started doing the FPV, and then I had to go back to LOS on the quad and the helis, and it's just a mess. But it's still a lot of fun. I like the FPV side of it.
Yeah. What is happening? I need to see what my settings are right now. Support until it's been so slow.
Yeah, props off. I agree. It's a smoother transition. So, and I think it can make you a better pilot because you have to be a little more precision oriented.
I don't know. I've seen a couple of people try it, and they're actually picking it up pretty quick.
Yeah, I do remember that. Props off. I was using 3D motors from a company called Grobner. They had.
I remember those.
Man, those motors had so much pull. It didn't matter if you let off the throttle and were floating down; it would just pick you right up. You could flip it right back over, and no worries. I still have that same quad. I have those on still.
Weren't those the 1100 kV ones or whatever?
No, higher kV than that.
Like 2200?
I think they were 2300 kV.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And they set it up for 4S even. So yeah. I ran between 4S and 5S depending on what I was doing. LOS, I would go 5S because I could do more challenging things and get closer to the ground and then pull it right back up. FPV, it was more difficult, so I went with the 4S on that one. And I was using between 1,500 and 1,800 milliamp batteries on 4S.
Yeah, Raphael, flying LOS is a whole different beast. And that was the thing. Like I came from the cinematic world, like legit giant Ulta X Taro 1000 carrying a red cam sort of cinema world. And so I learned my drone stuff on that. So I'm always staring at a drone hovering in the sky. Like, and every now and again I'd glance down at the monitor to see what the red cam was doing or what my camera op or whatever was doing. But that was what I knew of drones. And then when I got into FPV, just the concept of having it on my face was just confusing. But I've realized that in LOS, you get very used to using roll and pitch as your directional. As you're just flying around normally, you tend to just face one direction and just use roll and pitch to just sort of do this around where you're going. Whereas in FPV, you're generally doing yaw most of the time. And you're going around wherever you need to go by actually turning. And that was the thing the switch that had to change in my brain. Because when you're trying to get, like, yeah, you'd use yaw to pan around, but usually you had a gimbal on those frickin' giant rigs that would turn the camera for you so you wouldn't have to follow the Nissan GTR that you were chasing with the drone.
Or you'd have a separate guy with another remote with operating
that was
again.
The thing. Usually we would use either the Movi or the Mimic, the Ronin Mimic. So you'd have somebody on the ground that was fully in charge of just the camera and the gimbal itself. And then you'd have our guys, which were just flying the drone. And all that required was going forward or going backwards or going sideways. Like, it never required steering much. Because the camera did all of that focal stuff. The camera did all that. And so making that transfer in my brain was the hardest thing. Because putting the goggles on, you were now in the cockpit, and the drone then had to be your camera instead of the camera itself having to be your camera. And that's why I don't like flying Mavics. That's why I don't like flying Phantoms anymore. Because, yeah, you can still do the hover around and pan around stuff, but it's just not the same for me. If that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I used to be all into that, but now I just never fly my LOS rigs anymore. Hey, Matt, what do you got in stock these days? You restocked yet?
Everything. Right now, pretty much. Yeah, right now, pretty much everything's in stock.
And did we figure out Royal's issue with the air unit, or with the Vista?
No, not to his satisfaction, at least.
Was it the ESC, or no?
Yeah, it's the spacing for the ESC there.
Okay. I'll talk to him and see what he needs for that. But yeah,
I'm working on it already.
Okay. So, what's Racer X doing, man? You guys building up shop?
Yeah, I'm working on my website right now, trying to get it integrated with between Wix and GoDaddy.
Okay.
And just adding a lot of merchandise and stuff. I don't have my stock in yet, so I've got to go through that and see how much stock I'm taking to WCT and how much stock I'm going to be putting on the site. That way I have everything lined up, and otherwise I'm not going to be able to publish the site yet because it'll mess everything up, and then I'll have off content, so I have to watch my P's and Q's. So I'm taking another 2 weeks to publish the site and get it all full done, because I'm going from not having a store to having a store. Yeah. So it's redoing everything on it.
And that's key. Like, I was dealing with GoDaddy for a bit for our site, and it was fine, but I ended up just buying a new domain that was legit, just optimizedrone.com instead, through Teespring, and I think they run through Square or something like that. I'm not sure.
Possibly. I don't know.
I'm not sure which, but either way, it was just super easy to set up, and I was like, all right, done. I'll take it. Like, because I was already doing a new store with them anyways. Because Stream Elements was not a good store to be a part of. Like, I'm sorry, the profit margin as well as just the service and cash out, everything was a nightmare. Like, so we switched to Teespring, and at that point I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna switch and get a full new domain and everything and stop dealing with GoDaddy.
Yeah. See, because GoDaddy is great for a domain, but I found
That's
that
all I
Wix,
use them for.
yeah, see, Wix is so easy to use though, and their smooth transition. They do everything for you depending on the package you get with them. So they're basically going to run all of my storefront to where all my pricing. So if somebody buys from, say, Colorado or whatever, the tax is going to be all automatically done, and it's just through the site. Period. So I have all that taken care of. It works pretty seamless so far. So, but yeah, Matt, you said you're using that same system, aren't you? Going with Wix also?
Yep.
Hi, Zach.
That's what I thought.
Matt, you're with Wix also?
Oh yeah, Square. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Where
far
is Wix?
it's not bad. There's my biggest problem with Wix is a lot of the things that I want it to do, it will do, but you have to purchase an app to make it do this, and then
Yeah.
that ends up being more than my actual monthly subscription that I already have, and it's like, well, screw that.
Well, GoDaddy is even more expensive than Wix is. If you were to go just with their site, period, I was like, holy crap. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of a trade off.
It's annoying. It is. Like I was annoyed with all the different options, and that's one of the big reasons why I just was like, well, Teespring's offering to just do the domain for me, so I'm just gonna do that. Like, and that made it so much easier. But yeah. Well, it's 11:30 my time. I've got 4 under 6-year-olds that are going to be up at about 6 a.m. So I'm going to be calling it quits soon. You guys are welcome to continue. But
definitely appreciate you coming on, Ryan, and answering a lot of these questions that a lot of people have been just kind of dying to know. And you filled us in on a lot of other stuff we weren't even thinking about. So that was excellent, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. Always happy to help. And there's a lot more I could have talked about with the open source software and some of the cool stuff we're going to be able to do with that.
Well, let's plan on having you on again to focus more on that side of it. Sound good?
Sure.
Just on the open source part, and then we'll cut everything else out.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different sides to this that I think if we actually do delve into the individual sides, we could get other individuals involved as well that specialize in those sorts of topics.
Could be interesting. Yeah, somebody that does Betaflight development or LRS.
Ivan Efimov does Betaflight development.
You've got Ivan local to you, right, Matt?
Sorry?
Ivan's local to you, right?
He's in Houston, so but local time. Yeah, same time.
Yeah. Okay. But we'll figure something out, because I think that's a good next step for educating everybody on HD0.
I mean, number one, we're gonna have Doom running on the goggle.
That's right. I remember you saying that in the video too.
Yeah,
that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, some other interesting things. So I was racing yesterday, and I found out that like instantly when I started listening to music and shutting off everything while I was flying, I got way faster. But the problem was I couldn't hear the start tone. So the only way I knew that the round started is because everybody else took off in front of me. So what I'm
Well,
going
I'm
to
usually a
do.
fraction of a second behind everybody that takes off
Yeah.
anyway.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to route the audio through the goggle, right, for the music, and I'm going to have it when I arm, it does like a 5-second countdown and then it starts playing music.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
See,
You
yeah,
know,
that's
and like
too.
it's such a specific use case that no one's ever going to make that a feature unless I write it and then I submit a pull request and it goes in.
Yeah, unless you do it for your own selfish reasons, nobody's gonna put that in. Like,
Right. Yeah.
so that's awesome.
What you get with open source is like it's hard to articulate the benefits. It's random stuff, things that you want it to do,
Oh
to make
yeah.
it do it. And all the CAD for the goggles all open source. You can go 3D print a goggle now if you wanted to.
I think I might for shits and giggles.
Yeah. So when have we ever, and when will we ever in the future have a open source goggle? When?
never.
None that I know of.
Exactly.
So, like, just let that sink in.
Well, I know a lot of people already started trying to figure out how to print certain things. I think there was a file that you had given somebody, I think, and they printed their halves up to kind of play with it a little bit. So it was pretty cool.
Now, in terms of hardware to go along with that open source, in terms of the board itself, is there excess space? Like, are there excess UARTs, excess setups that you can add certain different things for?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So it's got ExpressLRS backpack built in for one, and then it has UARTs available, and then it also has a Wi-Fi add-on thing that you can do, so that you can live stream your footage to your phone or to the internet.
Awesome.
And also, like with open source, we'll be able to turn it into a way to like OTA do updates, so you don't have to connect to a computer to get an update file. Just like the sky's kind of the limit. That's what I'm super excited about. We don't have to rely on companies to do the code.
Well, and that's very accurate, and that's what I love about the innovation in our community. Like, we've talked about Dominic Clifton, we've talked about Zoe, we've talked about Ivan, we've talked about all of these people that are innovators, and all of that has generally been open source in terms of controlling stuff, in terms of FCs, in terms of like it. You notice the second any new controlling comes out, there's 35 more radios that have that controlling. Like, and then everything's now open source, and it's gotten to that point where somebody wants to do something and they can just take that code, go to GitHub, be like, I'm going to modify this. I'm going to make it do this now. And boom, done. Like, and if they know what they're doing, it's just become so easy for everybody to step up and upgrade things that we already were using, like F3 to F4 to F7 to everything, just stepping up in terms of capabilities, hardware. And all of that was because of the open source nature of our community. And
I agree.
Our community is one of those rare ones that, unlike most, where it's niched into a specific lifestyle, a specific line of work, where if you're a mechanical engineer, you hang out with mechanical engineers generally, you know?
Well, we definitely got the nerds.
Well, and that's the thing. whereas RC, we don't just have engineers. We don't just have like retirees or Navy pilots or any of that shit. We have all of those. And we have people that are good at coding. We have people that are good at building, people that are good at woodworking. We have artists. We have military personnel. We have retirees. We have people that are dealing with cancer and PTSD, using it as therapy. like we have teenagers. All of these people are focusing on different aspects and different parts, and all of them have now communicated with each other and know everybody's strengths. So in terms of networking in our community, you can pretty much reach out and just be like, I have this idea. Who do I have to talk to make it happen? And that is open source. Our community is based on open source. So now having a goggle that hits that market is the niche of our community.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And there's a lot to kind of expand on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could ramble for days on that. Like, that's like, there's so much more that could be done with open source technology than having proprietary based.
Like, I mean, I could go on and on. We can do audio cues based on status on the flight controller. We could emulate motor noises off of the telemetry for the drone, so that you get audio without actually having an audio link. We could, and that's just kind of like the use for audio. The AV inputs can all be muxed together, so you can have an analog bay receiving analog video and audio, but just choose to route the audio through the system, and then have the digital feed for the video. It can do that. The other thing it can do is it can do picture-in-picture. So you can have HD0 as the main picture and then analog as the side picture, or an HDMI input as the side picture, or any other combination of the inputs. It's going to be, I think, a little bit mind-blowing for some people. So, if you really get into that kind of thing,
open up more ideas and really get everybody thinking, hey, what more can we get out of this system, and what more do we want? Because I know right now on one of my radios, I just installed an MP3 player board in my radio. I'm using a Grotner radio with Crossfire on it currently, but it's going to Express LRS very soon. So,
which Grotner are you using?
The new MZ16. I have the MZ18 Pro, but the firmware is now integrated in a way that the MZ32 and the MZ16 are almost identical, except for the size value and how many models. One's 32 channels, the other one's 16 channels. So that's the big.
How do you find flying FPV with a Grotner? Because in my mind, you know me, I was a diehard Radio Link fan for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And nobody in FPV used it. They all made freaking fun of me, so I went and bought a Taranis.
Yeah.
But I still was diehard. Like, I still used Radio Link for all my longer range stuff, and like, I loved it. I had the AT-10-2. I had I loved it. And Grotner is one of those that not many FPV pilots will even consider. What's your take on that?
In the Europe, they are. There, a lot of them are flying some of the Grotner stuff, but it's a very small portion. But you'll see more Grotner stuff in Europe than you will in the States. But I have some friends that were using Grotner stuff in RC car racing along with me. I was doing that too for over 30 years. And then when I saw what their radios were doing, the guys that were at the fields, they had MC32s, which were the big bulkies. They had the huge neck straps that had shoulder and 4-pin harness and everything on them, but they could carry that radio real easy. And once I started to see what they could accomplish, they actually had the first on-screen, for your PID adjustments, everything, before anybody else had them. They already had it implemented in their flight controllers, to where you could just go on your screen, change the PIDs after you landed, and you go back up and fly. And then Brain FPV came out with theirs, pairing with Trappy to do smart audio. So that was pretty much right after that.
Yeah.
As far as the Grotner is concerned, their range has been phenomenal. I've gone up to 3 miles on their long range system before I did anybody else's. They had problems way back in the day when I first started flying, and I saw guys at the field say, man, I started to have a fail safe here. And then once the transition of the new owner, or when they had issues and had to sell out the company and the company got rebought, that's when everything started to get better. And then I came in, X amount of years later and saw how much phenomenal low latency, next to nothing. And they were really great on that. So now they even have mapping on screen for your GPS. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's crazy. The stuff they're doing with it now. I've got my MP3 player.
Is it running Mission Planner or something on?
No, it's not running Mission Planner. It's running. I can't even think of it off the top of my head. I'll get you all the info, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to post how I'm doing that on my YouTube channel also, and then I'll put a link to everything so everybody will be able to see how I'm doing the mapping on that. And it's a brand new one. They just released it a few months back. So it's a whole new system, and I'll update you guys on what everything is. And maybe there might be something we can do with all the touch screen and everything with the new open source with EdgeTX. I know we'll probably love to see something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they're all in for, hey, let's streamline it, align it, and make it better. But Grobner's always been on the forefront of new technology, so.
In terms of receiver size, that was kind of what killed it for Radio Link for me, because they really didn't have too many options in terms of like the micro RX sort of thing. They had the one S Bus one, which was pretty good. Like, it was good, but it just wasn't. Their PPM receivers were fantastic, and that's what I loved about them. But once I started drifting into more the FPV and S Bus micro RX side, I really needed to go more towards FR Sky and all those because they don't have the option. Does Grobner have those?
Oh, yeah. I'll show you one real quick. I've got it right here. Let's see. Where is it?
I just haven't seen much about Grobner recently other than from like flight tests.
So here is the size of, let me get a XM. Let's see, what do I have here? Okay, here we go. This is for a size comparison. All right, so here's a Free Sky XM Plus.
Oh yeah.
But there's the Grobner here, and there's the XM Plus. I don't know if you can see it. Right.
Yeah.
They're really close.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
and like a Crossfire
is coming a long way
too. Yeah.
Yeah. They heard what we were wanting as far as FPV and more of their. They started getting into the drones a lot, and we were all asking for that. And then they came out with a single board flight controller that's 30 by 30, like everybody else. And then their receivers got smaller because they said, hey, how are we going to appeal to people if they can't use our receivers in their drones and that kind of thing? So now they're shifting and they're still in that whole realm. But yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear they're still doing that because now you can generally get their stuff through where? RMRC?
No, where you can buy the Grobner stuff is their new website's controlhobbies.com. So it's through Control Hobbies, and they're located here in California. So he's only about 5-6 hours from me.
Okay.
So they service, and their tech, he's been amazing. I had some switches broke off on my Grobner, and I've been with them since since 2001 or 2004, and testing all kinds of gear and posting, but whatever. Their tech, he walked me through so much stuff, and when I told him I had switches broke, just sent me them. I didn't have to pay anything for it. I said, wow, that's pretty crazy. But he said, no, we'll just send you this stuff. That's how they work. They've always been fantastic with their tech department. And if you have any issues, you call them up and he'll sit there and walk you through the whole thing. He's got YouTube channels on setup, and I mean, it's just phenomenal. Detailed, very detailed. So I'll be posting a lot of that stuff on when I start getting everything rolling with Racer X and my YouTube channel and really flowing. And then you guys will start seeing a lot of different cool stuff that's not, what is already out posted.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, Ryan, is there anything that you'd like to close out the show with, or any shout outs or anything like that?
Go, Carl.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Carl's out, everybody.
Very humble guy.
Very. We want to get him on talking about the open source stuff too, so put that bug in his ear for us. But yeah, guys, so everybody who's still watching, I think we still got like 6 or 7, but everybody who's still watching, thanks for sticking around. We went later than we usually do, but it's a good topic to do so with. We tend to do that on the tech ones anyway. But yeah, guys, check out optimizedrone.com. We got some new pilot merch and team merch up. Check out GankMultiRotors.com. He's just restocked all of his new frame designs, which are epic. Ryan, you should also check out GankMultiRotors.com because I think you'll be intrigued by a lot of Matt's design.
And I'm still waiting on one to come out, darn it.
You've been waiting on that one to come out for a long time.
Since he teased me with it when we went flying, I said, "Oh, you turd."
Dude, you know how much fun Matt had teasing Jeff Poole with it for like a year.
Oh God, yeah, I know that.
Oh God, Jeff was just furious by the time Matt had the prototypes in his hand. He's like, "You need to send that to me." Like,
are you bringing my test one to WCP, Matt?
Matt, that's the
sitting right next to
There will be 2 necromancers there for sure.
Right.
Jesse's.
I'd love to take a look at it more. What changes you did? That's what I want to see.
Hey Matt, have you added the hookup for the servo that you were mentioning?
No, I haven't even messed with
that.
Out
there yet?
I haven't even messed with that yet.
He's letting the cat out of the bag before Matt wants him.
Yep, always. That's why Matt doesn't tell me things.
Right. And why he has an X8 now?
No, we talked about it in an episode like a month ago or so. We brought it up, so I know Matt's already kind of let it out of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only for our diehard viewers, man.
Oh, I see.
But X8, yeah, dude, I've been fucking with Matt for years, and I showed William this. I'm currently soldering up the stack and the ESC, so I took it all apart. But Ryan, I think you'll like this. This is one of Matt's frames. I've been testing one of Matt's 3-inch frames for what, 2 years now, Matt?
Give or take, yeah.
I've broken a few. And so I had a bunch of broken ones laying around. So I decided to modify those broken ones and make an over-under. So
we call that weak spot locator. Weak
spot locator.
Right.
So it's gonna be a fun little build. And then I still got the V2 Ultralight to build up again because that board blew out the 5-volt. And then where's the other oh yeah. And then Mistress Helen, the Nemesis of all the Nemesis.
The X8.
X8 beast. I need to get another 5S battery because that shitty RDQ one blew up on me.
That'll happen.
Dude, I lost a cell and then I was like, cool, I'll just kill that cell and then make it a 4S. Then nope, all the cells just said nope. So that was literally 7 cycles.
Dog.
Like legit 7 cycles that battery lasted. And 2 of those were testing. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night, guys. Thank you all for joining us. This is an awesome show. We're going to have Ryan on, probably William on a few more times to talk about all this stuff. Thank you, Ryan, very much for taking the time and talking with us. We had a lot of fun, and we definitely got educated.
There's more education to come, and I can't wait.
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
All right.